Yo, welcome everybody to another Sledgehammer Books. I'm your host, Dr. Sledgehammer, and today I'm very much excited to finally present to you another Shadowrun Book review. Now, I have never intended to make another review on these books, however, the love and support that I received from the Shadowrun community was so overwhelming. I keep getting requests to this day to make more, so thank you sincerely. Today I decided to go for another one of Robert Charrette's Secret of Power Trilogy books. Choose your enemies carefully. So, without further ado, let's get started. Robert Charrette is of course one of the original creators of the Shadowrun board game. His Secret of Power Trilogy covers a lot of basics about the Shadowrun universe and is a good way to start learning about Shadowrun. The story is quite compelling, but you are going to have to endure doing a lot of Google searches while reading. The Secret of Power Trilogy tells the tale of two siblings that were separated by tragic circumstances. Sam and Janice Werner grew up in an American conservative Christian family that lived a more or less normal life in Tokyo, Japan, far away from your run-of-the-mill street thugs and magicians that run around the slums of major cities. Janice became a college student at Tokyo University. Her brother Sam managed to get himself a high-paying job working on Matrix security systems for the Tokyo branch of the Renraku Corporation. Sam achieved great things for his company, so Renraku took good care of Janice. Life was good. One day, Sam was assigned the state-of-the-art data jack cyberware that allows the user to connect his consciousness to the Matrix environment of the company. The upside was that Sam was gonna be a much larger asset to Renraku from this day forward. The downside was that Sam needed a lengthy brain surgery. As the days passed, Janice became ill and was diagnosed with Kawaru, or Goblinization, a disease that has suddenly been infecting people around the world since April 2021, turning them into orcs, trolls and other meta-species. Of course, Japanese people do not want to deal with such disgusting abominations, so off she goes to Yomi, an island that seemingly appeared out of nowhere in 2020 in the Philippines. Yomi is basically an open-air concentration camp to which Japanese people send their metahumans and criminals to. Alone and afraid, Janice lived on the island of Yomi, hoping her brother would come for her. But he never did. Being an orc now has its advantages, of course, as Janice is physically much stronger than before. At some point, Janice managed to escape the island of Yomi, traveling to the Kowloon district in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was now independent from mainland China, acting as a free enterprise zone, ideal for refugees to hide in. The Kowloon district is also known as the Walled City. It is a really densely populated area that is mostly ruled by the Triads. Janice is currently squatting in one of the empty apartments. She is in great danger because all sorts of thugs roam the Walled City, including cannibals. To make matters worse, Janice suddenly caught another virus and started experiencing a second transformation. Janice was turning into a Wendigo. See, Janice was infected with another virus called the Human Meta-Human Vampiric Virus, or HMHVV. It is a rare virus and, as the name suggests, victims of the virus develop vampire-like abilities such as rapid regeneration. Victims also lose some of the essence of their soul and become more feral. The virus changes the genetic code of its victims, turning them into different meta-species. Most transformations occur to humans, turning them into blood-sucking vampires. The virus can also infect metahumans. Dwarfs, for example, turn into flesh-hungry goblins, and orcs turn into Wendigos. Wendigos are large, powerful creatures that are gifted in the art of shamanic magic. They are cursed, carnivore creatures who often feast on human flesh. Native American myths say that the more human flesh a Wendigo consumes, the more powerful it becomes. Flesh is like a drug to them. They have eternal hunger that can never be sated. They are also sadistic creatures that like to play with their prey. Wendigos often make their victims feel safe. They feed them human flesh before they finally consume them. As you can imagine, Wendigos are feared among common folks for these habits. So Wendigos will have to learn pretty quickly how to run for their lives, and they will learn to hate humans. The book explores racism really well for the oppressors and the victims. The book will show you how monsters are made. Janice was feeling weak, she was mentally broken, and she was being hunted down by the scum wandering the walled city. Out of nowhere, she was saved by a powerful corporate entity that seemed to want her best interests. Following the events of Never Deal with the Dragon, Sam Werner has since abandoned and rejected the Renraku cooperation, and is currently living in the Redmond Barrens northeast of Seattle. He's slowly turning into a fully fledged Shadowrunner. A Shadowrunner is of course a gun for hire, a mercenary to the highest bidder. They usually work for a corporate employer who is nicknamed Mr. Johnson. Sam is also currently undergoing firearms and magic training with associates he met in recent events. Sam and his elven decker friend Dodger have been organizing a lot of Shadowruns as of late. They're trying to raise funds for a large rescue operation on Yomi Island. Their current Mr. Johnson, Andrew Glover, is the Vice President of Amalgamated Technologies and Telecommunications, in short, AT&T. I hear they pay good dividends. Glover wants to abduct employees of certain corporations so they can go and work for other corporations. In the last book we saw how difficult it can be for employees to leave mecha corporations. Sam just wanted to save his little sister Janice but couldn't just up and leave because he was not expendable. He had to go and hire the elven femme fatale Catherine Hart to orchestrate an abduction for him to escape from Renraku Arcology in Seattle. I mean, for crying out loud, some of her associates lost their lives during the abduction. Now I do not want to spoil too much of the plot for you, but let me give you the cliff notes. At some point while working for the current Mr. Johnson, Sam and Dodger get involved in a plot against a secret society in England, a society of druids who are performing rituals to restore the land to its former glory. Sam and Dodger are far away from the turf in Seattle, and they're going up against some of the most powerful corporate entities in England. This is a serious matter that gets both elven nations involved. The Charrette, which is formerly known as Oregon and part of Nevada, and the Charrette, which is formerly known as Ireland. Charrette involves former associates of Dodger to help with the situation, and the Charrette employs Catherine Hart to help stop the circle. The only way for Sam to be useful to her is by accepting the animal spirit dog in his life. Sam has often been visiting the legendary crocodile shaman Herzog, who has been haunting the canal system of London for years now. He sounds a little bit like this guy.
I'm a wizard, mind you.
Herzog is frustrated with the situation because Sam is not progressing fast enough. Sam doesn't believe that animal spirits are sentient beings. Instead, he believes that animal spirits are a construct made up by the minds of shamans to trick themselves into using magic. He refuses to believe anything else because he's a good conservative Christian. I'm sorry, but after all the shit that Sam has seen, this is one of the most stupid things I've ever heard of. I mean, it is one stupid plot device. It is an interesting theory to say the least, but using Christianity as an excuse to not believe in something he so desperately needs to believe in is fucking stupid. It is really amazing to see a Mary Sue so oblivious to its plot armor. I like Sam Werner. He's a cool protagonist. He is cerebral, he is smart, he is a great politician, he is a great leader. But he's still the least skilled person in every run that he participates in. And he still, somehow, always outlives the professionals. I mean, the least he can do is be a little bit aware of the fact that he is just plain lucky. While Sam was being a dumbass, Dodger is dealing with the crisis of seeing the limits in what he can do as a decker. He wants to do everything in his power to aid his friend Sam, however, their adversaries are much better protected than anything he has dealt with before. Plus, he had to deal with Sam's bitch-ass attitude throughout the novel. I will always enjoy the unique humor Dodger brings to the table. He's a fun character and deserves much better. Catherine Hart is still as effective as ever in what she does. When serious, there is no wasted motion in anything she says or does. When she's fighting, she strikes fast, she strikes hard. She has some of the coolest kills in the book. As a reader, you will constantly underestimate her because you are used to her hanging out with this powerful Draco form, Tessian, but she by herself is a force to be reckoned with. One new character I'd like to talk about is the dwarven lady Willie Williams. Willie was hired by one of Dodger's associates. She is a rigger, a term used for a hacker who specializes in rigging machinery and controlling it. Riggers can simultaneously control an army of mechanical vehicles to storm the enemy lines. They can use drones to scout entire neighborhoods. Willie herself is one chilled dwarven lady, I tell ya. She feels like one of your gamer buddies who has been crashing at your place for the last week and has zero interest in conflict. Andrew Glover is also an interesting character to study. I mean, he's the racist, weak-minded corporate slimeball that thinks that he's so damn special. He's the man that you love to hate. Then we have the book's main antagonist, a man that goes by the name of Hyde White. Just a warning, the name is a spoiler in it by itself. He's a fat fuck that I imagine looks something like this. He always cracks me up, by the way. There are of course many other amazing characters that I could spend an hour talking about. Charrette manages to bring characters to life with minimal effort. They really do feel like actual people who have had a tough life behind them, be it the street thugs who tell you who they are with a few facial expressions or the corporate thugs with their passive attitudes and their empty smiles. Charrette knows how to design good characters. Charrette also knows how to write an intriguing plot that captures your attention. I mean, I read the first book 6 months ago, and I still remember almost everything. His deceptive style of writing will constantly keep you on the edge of your seat, as you will never see the plot twists coming. He can hide the main character from you in plain sight by simply switching your perspective to another character who has a different location, different friends, and different thought patterns. This is, however, a two-edged sword. As we mentioned in the last video, Charrette changes locations, thought patterns, and scenes way too often. Your mind is rarely ready for what Charrette throws at you. Take the introduction of Catherine Hart, for example. The last time we saw her was at that awkward meeting she had with Sam at the end of the last book. I did not even know that she was going to be part of this book. For 10 book sections straight, we only had Genesis and Sam's plots going on. They changed locations, they introduced new characters, however we roughly knew where things were going. Suddenly, on section 11, I'm given Hart's perspective, a character that I didn't know was involved in the whole thing. And I'm told about the Sele Court in Chernanok, a place I know nothing about, and I know nothing about the politics that they employ, and Charrette suddenly starts throwing terms at you that you do not understand and need a Google search for. And then I'm told what the Sele Court is, and I'm like, hold up. I don't give a fuck. Just moments ago, Sam and Dodger were in a dire situation at the Druid's mansion, and I'm more interested in finding out if they managed to escape or not. For your information, the court is a technologically advanced establishment that is disguised by an illusion that looks something like this. And the elves living there are arrogant pricks who probably believe that they can plant trees in their own shit because it has magical powers. Charrette still expects deep Shadowrun knowledge from his readers. He constantly starts throwing terms at you without explaining them first, which is extremely confusing and frustrating. I felt like the best thing for me to do was ignore entire paragraphs and just keep reading until I get back to things that I understand. One thing that makes the whole thing worse is, once again, the constant change between the real world, the Matrix, the spirit world, and unannounced flashbacks. Anyway, let's summarize this. We have a great book with a great plotline that dives deep into Celtic mythology, blood rituals, elven societies, and the psyche of an individual who's changing into a new species. I managed to get a good look into what it means to become a Wendigo. I really liked how Genesis' thought patterns changed throughout the novel. As usually, Charrette shines with his storytelling abilities, but fails at clarifying things to his readers. He did a much better job than in his previous novel, however it was still not good enough. The book gets once again a 6 out of 10 from me, because I liked the story better in the previous book, but I liked his writing style better in this one. I'm also thinking of reviewing the third book as well, which would conclude the Secret of Power Trilogy. If demand is there, I'm ready to do a couple more, but as of right now, I was Dr. Sledgehammer, and I will see you guys on the next Sledgehammer review. Bye. Of all the nights that they could have picked, why tonight?